Hello, thanks for joining us for another episode of Explore Charles County. My name is Ashley Chenault, your host, and I'm the Chief of Tourism with the Department of Recreation, Parks, and Tourism. Today we are in one of our beautiful state parks, and I am joined by Ms. Cheryl Elliott, President of Chapman State Park, Friends of Chapman State Park. Cheryl, can you tell us a little bit about the history of this site and where we are today?
Oh, there's so much history here. We're looking at the right part of the house is actually the first part of the house that was built dating back to 1805. We're not really sure exactly what it was for. Maybe that was a cottage that was to oversee the ferry business that was already going on the shore, on the Potomac shores, that the Chapmans operated very successfully. The rest of the house was built in stages, but 1840 and 1850 were the main areas that you see for the main part of the mansion, and then the garage was added in the early part of the 20th century. So that's the house.
Okay.
Now, of course, history has many directions from the family who lived here, pretty much the Chapmans throughout the early part of the 20th century, from when it was first built to when it was sold. It was the last private owners. There was a person who was from Boston. He was a stockbroker, retired. He used it as a hunting lodge. And then it was sold a few years later to the Countess Bessignier.
Okay.
And the Countess Bessignier turned it into really a horse farm rather than a farm that was producing tobacco, crops, and that type of thing. The Countess lived here part-time until her death in the 80s, at which time it was inherited by her niece. And then it went for sale. It was put up for sale, and it exchanged hands a couple of times during that time, and then finally to the state, who purchased it in around 2001 to preserve it for history.
Okay, preserve it for history.
And the rest of us.
Yes, absolutely. And so how is the site used today?
The site is used today it's open on Sundays, April through October, from 1 till 4 p.m. That is what the Friends of Chapman State Park do. The Friends of Chapman State Park have also been entrusted with renovating the entire property, what you will see when you tour the property.
So Cheryl, in your opinion, what do you think the best view of the house is?
Oh, of course, it's the back,
Yeah.
the rear view, looking out over the Potomac. We sit up high, about 86 feet above the Potomac River in terms of height above water. And the expanse is breathtaking.
I would have to agree.
Absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite views in Charles County as well. Cheryl, what would you say a special fact is about the house that most people don't know?
Well, that it's open to the public.
Okay.
It's a public treasure. It's a public asset, and people should come here to learn the history of Mount Aventine, Chapman State Park. I mean, we have 29,000 visitors that come to Chapman State Park every year, and I don't know that all of these people who walk in to visit the trails, walk the trails, know about the heritage aspects of this historic southern plantation and what it means.
Yeah,
And they will learn
visitors.
that by visiting the house. And of course, you will notice around here that we have interpretive signage, and that helps. Now, obviously, there's much more in the house, more in signage, more brochures than that I've shared with you, but there's much to learn here. I think that's the fact that people don't know that they should know about.
Right, and 29,000 visitors, that's incredible.
Yes, absolutely.
And so when the site is open, do you have docents that take you through a tour through the house?
We do. It's all volunteers.
Okay.
And by special appointment also. If an organization wants to do a special tour, we will make arrangements for that.
Okay, perfect. So where can our visiting audience learn more about website information, more ways to donate and volunteer with your organization?
Okay, great question. By going to our website, our organization's website, and it is www.friendsofchapmansp.org.
So we are now overlooking one of the best views of the Potomac, and I am joined by Mr. John Anderson, Director of Large of Friends of Chapman State Park. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So can you talk to us a little bit about what your connection is to this site?
Sure. I am one of the descendants of the Chapman and Boykin family that lived here up until 1915. The Chapmans came here from London back in the 1750s, and the property was purchased in 1753. Nathaniel Chapman, who was the first owner, was business partners with Augustine Washington, who was George's father. And then they started up the Ohio Company, and they also had Principio Ironworks, so quite prominent in the area at that time. But between the Washingtons, the Masons, and the Chapmans, that's really how this area kind of took off. But when I was 26, my grandmother gave me a photo of who is now my second great grandfather. It was her grandfather. And he's a Confederate officer, and I was upset about that. I asked her to tell me about him, and she, on the back of the photo, she wrote his name, and it says Captain in the Confederacy. And unfortunately, she died shortly after I saw her, and I put that photo away. And during COVID, I was going through some things and found it, and I just searched his name, and all of this exploration in my family's history has come out. And now, as a volunteer, I want to get this open as much as possible, kind of continue my grandmother's direction, I think. I don't say legacy, but more her guidance. I do feel her out here sometimes, just kind of guiding me. Yeah. But this, as Cheryl said, this is for everyone, and to be able to have, weddings. I've had people get engaged out here. It's absolutely beautiful. So those are the moments, and I want this to be an experience.
Okay, perfect.
So, great place to visit.
Yeah, thank you so much, John.
All right. Thank you for having me.